Have you ever wondered how your phone recognizes a face, or how your email app just knows what's spam? The secret isn't looking at one clue at a time. It's about understanding how a whole bunch of clues work together. That's the real power of multivariate probability, and it's all about seeing the whole picture. So yeah, let's dive right in.
Okay, so imagine this is your job. Tell a car from a truck. Simple enough, right? But what if you could only look at one thing, like its weight? You'd be in trouble pretty fast. I mean, a big, heavy luxury car could easily weigh more than a small pickup truck. A single clue on its own is just not going to cut it.
To get a real answer, you need more data. You got to look at the weight and the length and the number of wheels, all at the exact same time. And the moment we start looking at how all these different variables play together, well, that's when we stepped into the world of multivariate probability.
So here's our game plan for today. We already know we need more than one clue. So now we're going to break down the tools you need to handle them. We'll start with joint, then marginal, then conditional probability, and we'll wrap it all up with a really powerful idea called independence. Think of it as our toolkit for the day.
First up, the absolute foundation for everything else we're going to talk about, joint probability. This is how we look at the whole system and ask that one simple question. What are the odds of two different things happening at the exact same moment?
So the word you've got to burn into your brain here is and. Joint probability, which we write as P of x comma y, isn't about x times or y happening. It's about x and y happening together, as a pair. It's the probability of a specific combo.
Let's make this ridiculously simple. You toss two coins. What's the probability that coin 1 is heads and coin 2 is tails? Well, as you can see, there are only 4 possible outcomes, and each one has an equal 1 in 4 chance. So the joint probability, P heads tails, is exactly 1/4. Easy as that.
And here's the golden rule. If you take the probabilities of every single possible combination, heads and heads, heads and tails, tails and heads, tails and tails, they have to add up to 1, or, 100%. It means you've covered all your bases. Nothing else can happen.
Okay, so we've seen the whole system, but what if we only care about one little piece of it? That's where marginal probability comes in to save the day. It's our tool for basically ignoring all the other noise and just focusing on one single variable.
The idea here is actually pretty intuitive. If we want to know the probability of just x, all we do is take our joint probability and add up all the different possibilities for y. We're essentially marginalizing out the variable we don't care about at the moment.
All right, take a look at this table. It maps out all the joint probabilities for two variables, x and y. Each one of those cells shows you the chance of a specific x-y pair happening. So for instance, the probability of x being 0 and y being 1 is 10%. But what if I don't care about y? What if I just want to know the overall probability of x being 0?
Well, to find that marginal probability of x equals 0, we just add up everything across its entire row. So 0.10 plus 0.05 plus 0.15 gives us 0.30. And right here you can see exactly why it's called marginal probability, because we literally calculate it and write it in the margins of the table. Pretty neat, huh?
Moving on to our next tool, conditional probability. And this is where things get really powerful. This isn't just about what could happen, it's about what is likely to happen given that we already know something else is true. It's all about updating our beliefs with new facts.
Let me put it this way. If you know for a fact that a student studied for exactly 2 hours, does that change your guess about whether they passed the exam? Of course it does. The entire universe of possibilities just got a whole lot smaller.
I love this analogy. Just picture all of your probabilities as a big 3D hill. Conditioning on a fact, like knowing the student studied for 2 hours, is like taking a giant sword and shink, slicing straight through that hill. The shape of that cut, that cross-section, that's your new, smaller, more focused world of probabilities.
So here's the formula that makes it all work. The probability of x given y, written as px pipe y, is just the joint probability of both happening, divided by the marginal probability of y, the thing we know is true. We're basically just rescaling our world based on that new information.
And would you look at the impact? If the overall pass rate was, say, 60% for everyone, but we find out a student studied for 2 hours, we can now calculate that their specific chance of passing skyrockets to almost 86%. This is exactly how we start making much, much smarter predictions.
All right, last but not least, let's talk about independence. This is that special, simple case where knowing one thing tells you absolutely nothing. and I mean nothing about another. It's an assumption, but it's an incredibly powerful one. This slide makes it crystal clear. Height and weight are dependent, right? Taller people tend to weigh more. But the result of a coin toss has zero influence on the roll of a die. They're in totally different worlds. They are completely independent.
And mathematically, independence is just beautiful. It's so clean. If two variables are independent, you can find their joint probability just by multiplying their individual marginal probabilities. P of x times P of y. That's it. This makes calculations so much easier.
So why does this one little idea matter so much? Okay, here's the big payoff. In the real world, like with a spam filter, you might be looking at thousands of features. All the words in the email, who sent it, the time of day. Trying to calculate the true joint probability for all of that at once is, well, it's practically impossible.
And this is where a famous algorithm called naive Bayes comes in. It makes a naive, and let's be honest, often totally wrong assumption. It just assumes all those features are independent. It pretends the word free in an email is totally unrelated to the word Viagra. But by making that simple assumption, we can just multiply all the individual probabilities together. It's super fast, and what's crazy is it works incredibly well.
And that kind of leaves us with a fascinating final thought, doesn't it? We know the assumption of independence is often technically wrong, but it's the very thing that makes these powerful machine learning tools actually work in the real world. So it really makes you ask the question, when is being wrong the most useful and pragmatic choice you can possibly make?